What is it like delivering a $2.5 million crippled yacht over 1,000 miles? Well, I'm going to tell you because we just finished doing that today. We have arrived, the captain and I, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The boat came from New Jersey. I got on board in Annapolis, Maryland, and we trekked this boat down. So I'm going to share with you guys what it's like, what a day is like when you're delivering a yacht, and also what are some of the pitfalls and some of the challenges and maybe some of the benefits and some of the fun stuff that comes along with it. Although it is a lot of work and probably a lot more work than most everyone imagines. First off, the boat. This is a 2019 Bearing 70. She's 72 foot long, 18 foot wide, and an icebreaker class boat. And she cruises, let's say our average speed, I would say, was about 9 knots throughout this trip. And we had over 1,000 nautical miles to go. So if you do that math, you know, that's many hours traveling. And I say that this boat is crippled. Well, it's crippled in many ways. And the reason that we are bringing it down, that's another question people often ask, is why are you moving this boat? Well, because we are bringing it down to Fort Lauderdale to have it go in the yard. And we are currently sitting in the yard right now, Bradford Marina, and it is about to be here for, I don't know, months. So like I said, we have a lot of systems down, and each one of those things that are down make the delivery, make the job, make each day a little more difficult. And as I go through some of our things we do daily, I will explain how, okay, but this system is down, which makes this particular thing more difficult. So what do we do during the day? And usually we get up before sunrise so that we can be underway maybe 30 minutes, an hour before sunrise, so we can be underway as soon as we can see well enough to go. First thing in the morning, my job as mate crew, right? So it was myself and the captain. I would get up and we would check the systems and the levels. So I would go and check the oil in each engine. We have 2 diesel engines. Check the coolant. Check the oil and coolant in our generator, and a few other little small systems checks every once in a while. Maybe not every single day, but I would check all those, and then we would crank up and we would get underway. But then in order to get underway, most nights we were at a marina. Why is that? Well, because there's a lot of systems down on this boat. Like, we don't have GPS. Our depth sounder was working, I'd say, half of the time. Our Seakeeper, which is something that keeps the boat from doing this. It's like a gyroscope ball that spins really fast. It keeps the boat flat in seas. It's not working. We don't have autopilot, and one of our navigation lights is just battery powered. So there's just a few things down that would cause us to take this trip a different way than you would if the boat was performing perfectly. If the boat was performing perfectly, we'd have a crew of 4 and we'd come straight down from Annapolis or New Jersey all the way to Fort Lauderdale non-stop, running 24 hours straight. Since we didn't have that liberty, we were coming in every night pretty much to a marina, but sometimes we would be on the anchor in a bay or just inside an inlet. Another challenge that we often saw first thing in the morning, but most often in the evenings, was approaching and leaving the dock, the slip. Because, like I said, we have some systems down. Well, the bow thruster and stern thruster on this boat are down, and those are basically propellers that are turned sideways, one in the front of the boat, one in the back. It allows the boat to just move left and right instead of front and back. Well, we don't have those, so it was really difficult to maneuver this boat. And it made for some tense situations. Sometimes, you know, it got, you know, pretty tense, and you know, just everyone trying to do their best. And you know, the captain handled the boat very well in those times. I was impressed because there were some times I was like, no, I would not be doing this. But of course, he has 35 years experience. Once we did get underway, we would have our course plotted, whether we were out on the outside in the Atlantic Ocean coming south, or whether we were in the intracoastal waterway coming through the ditch per se. Like if the weather was too bad on the outside or things like that, we would come into the intracoastal waterway. If we had a choice, we would prefer to be on the outside in the ocean because there's less navigational hazards and less navigating that you have to do, less like navigational hazards or just things you have to overcome, or things like drawbridges, locks, you know, where they raise the water level. You pull into this large basin with various other boats who are also making the trip south, and you know, you're trying to get from a low river to a higher river or vice versa. And so that's just something that basically you see these at dams. Well, we got to go through one of those on like the, what was it, the first or second day? Very cool, first time I've ever done that. But then we had some days where we had a lot of drawbridges, especially once we got down in the intracoastal waterway, down around Fort Lauderdale, you know, down into South or Central Florida. we really got a lot. Like 3 days ago, I think we went through, I don't know, I wasn't counting, but it was 12 or 15 drawbridges. And whenever you go through those, sometimes you have to wait for them. Sometimes you have to time them. So as you are driving the boat through all this traffic, through these narrow waterways with limited steerage and other issues going on with the boat and no GPS, no Seakeeper, no autopilot, no things like that. Then you throw in these other difficulties like, okay, when does this bridge open? What is the height of that next bridge? Do we need to call this bridge? And also, okay, how fast do we need to get to the next bridge so we don't miss the opening? Because some bridges would open on the hour, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Some bridges would open on the quarter of the hour, on the half of the hour. So you had to look these things up and know ahead of time, okay, there's 6 nautical miles between this bridge and we have 30 minutes. Can we make it? Do we need to speed up? Do we need to slow down? Then you have to factor in no wake zones into that as well. And then other traffic. It is an undertaking. Santana Bridge. This is the Motor Yacht Liberty, southbound. Do you copy?
Lantana.
Is it Lantana?
This is Lantana Bridge, back to Liberty, go ahead.
Copy Lantana Bridge. We'll be requesting passes through your 3:30 opening.
Okay, I'll be opening in about 7 minutes if you were here. Could I have your dimensions, please?
Yes, we are 70-foot length, 18-foot beam.
Your overall height?
28 feet.
Copy that. Maintain touch with channel 9.
Copy that, thank you. Lantana Bridge, this is the Motor Yacht Liberty. Thank you for your opening.
Captain, you're welcome. Have a safe trip.
So certainly not a pleasure cruise. You're not just, out there just trying to find a great place to stop and anchor and swim. There was none of that. It was essentially 0 days off, sun up to sundown, pretty much, most every day. We did have a few days where we may have had a system failure and we were stuck at the dock for a little bit longer. Maybe we were sourcing parts. Maybe we were trying to figure out why this failed. Maybe we were repairing something on board like a generator or other issues that we had. And there were a lot. Real quick, big thanks to Element for sponsoring yet another video. So happy to have this stuff. Not only when I'm on an adventure, but every single day. Because we all know electrolytes are important, along with other vitamins and minerals, and salt and good clean ingredients, which are in Element. No sugar, no junk, no bull crap, and a lot of awesome flavor. And that's why I drink it, and I really would encourage you guys, substitute this for something that is not so good. You know what I'm talking about. It's great, and when you're low on electrolytes, then you have a higher chance of headaches and cramps and other types of fatigue that you don't want. And if you're on an adventure or on a yacht delivery, 1,000 miles with all kind of things going wrong, you want something like this. Why not take care of your health a little bit? And man, this is 17 ounces. I just mixed it in it, and it's pretty potent on the flavor. I usually mix it in about 32 ounces. And this is the citrus salt. I encourage you guys to go and try it. Go to drinkelement.com/TripSmith. Go through my link. You get a free sample pack with any order, and each order. I got a lot of people taking advantage of this, and I think it is a great way not only to just, get Element in your system, but also try all the different flavors, because they have a lot of cool flavors that are really good. But right now we're stopped here in a boatyard, actually a big, huge mega yacht, marina work, refit, I don't know. They're working on a bunch of big boats. We're about to go walk around, but there's like a huge one way over there up out of the water. Huge one right here that's like partly covered. It's totally amazing all the stuff I'm getting to see. Thank you, Element, for sponsoring this and keeping me healthy and on the go during this. And then you think, wow, it took you guys that long to get down. Why did it take so long? Well, because we had to come in and out often, and also because the speed of this vessel is slow, and it was slower than normal because, well, we are missing a chunk about this size, the captain says, out of one of our props. And so if we get our RPM too high, the boat would start to vibrate, and that is not a good thing. It will just vibrate until it vibrates apart. And you don't want that. We also had a more limited fuel capacity than normal, and we are having to run at a little higher RPM to make our speed, so we were burning more fuel, so that will force us to come in to fuel up more often. And sometimes to fuel up it would take I don't know, let's say total, if you just had to go and dock, and if you had to get on board 600 gallons of fuel, or sometimes more than that, 500 gallons of fuel, 400, it was different at different times, depending on, you had to plan that in advance. How far are you gonna go to the next fuel stop, blah, blah, blah. But you know, we could be at the fuel dock for an hour, maybe even longer. But not only did it take a while just to do the actual fueling up, but also if you're on the outside in the Atlantic and you have to come in, sometimes you have to come in 2 hours to get to a fuel dock and then 2 hours back out the next day or whatever. So that's essentially 4 hours that you are not making progress towards your destination. So granted, yeah, we had about 1,000 miles to go, but we probably did a lot more than that with all of our in and outs. And then another thing people don't think about is, well, what do we eat? Well, we ate pretty good. All right, we got a fish on. Oh yeah, good fish. Beauty. Woo-wee! All right, I'll take the knife. Like a bite? Sure. A little bit of mercury taste. A little bit of like a mineral taste, mercury.
That's good, man. That's nowhere near as bad as I thought.
No. All right, bucket. Woo, baby. Shark bait. Beautiful, got one done. So good. I was really happy about that. The captain cooks wonderful meals, and sometimes we got to eat out, which was a nice relief because sometimes, you know, like in the mornings or lunchtime, we would be underway out in the Atlantic, and the boat would be rocking and rolling, and you're in there trying to make a dish, and everything's sliding around. There are just things missing in the galley that if we had, it would make this process easier, but we don't have it, so that's another challenge added to us, and so you have the stress of all of that. And sometimes, if you're in a bad seaway and the boat's doing like this, you know, but that's the direction you need to go to get to your destination, well, sometimes if they're cooking, okay, hey, we need to bear off a little bit to make the motion of the boat be like this, so that it's a little bit easier in the galley to cook, because the boat really rocks a lot more in this direction than it does this direction, okay? Had we had an autopilot, it would be so much easier because we could just kind of sit back and watch the boat steer itself. But since we had to hand steer the entire way, that was difficult. That was more stress on the person at the helm, and we would take shifts at the helm. Basically, we would trade off 2 hours on, 2 hours off while we were underway. But funny thing, there's no seat at the helm. So we did a lot of standing. Now on the last 3 days, I did get a little stool that I would sit on, and I would actually steer the boat with a little joystick. So that made it a little bit easier, but still, most of the days we were standing, steering, and it was difficult. And a lot of times you wanted to be standing if you were out in the rocking, rolling ocean. It's a bit rough out today. We got this 35 knot wind coming off the beam seas, which means it's coming up against our side. It's tricky. I did just spend about 3 hours and 40 minutes at the helm earlier. About 4:05 a.m. when I started. Got to see the sun come up. It's pretty awesome. I'm just ready to be the calm water now. Cleaning. Had to do a lot of cleaning, whether it be inside the boat, outside the boat, cleaning the engine room while you're underway or while you're making repairs. Also cleaning the dishes. All that stuff had to be done. Cleaning your cabin, cleaning your head, right? Your bathroom. Sometimes some of those things would go wrong, and we had to mitigate that and fix that. Another thing we had to think about while underway is fuel. Not just are we going to run out of fuel, but we have 4 tanks on this boat, and there is a lot of sophisticated systems down below in the engine room right under me now. One of the systems is a fuel transfer system. So you would have to transfer fuel from one tank to another, to the tanks that the actual engines were feeding off of, and you had to watch your levels and, check that because you certainly don't want to run out of fuel. But then also, as you fill the tanks, you need to be sure that you turn it off or you will have a fuel spill, and that could be very bad. Another thing we had to do underway was find dockage for the night. Yesterday, I think, as we were trying to find dockage down here in Fort Lauderdale, the captain had called 3 or 4 marinas, and then he was steering the boat, and so I took a turn, called probably 3 or 4 marinas, and finally got a spot, but it was at a magnificent marina. We really did stay at we stayed at a lot of cool spots, but one of them was just extremely extravagant, very amazing, very high class. But then last night we stayed at a really, really cool spot right at the Port Everglades Inlet. Very amazing. Just mega boats everywhere. Totally cool. But then, as you're underway, making your way down, you see so much stuff. Especially when you're running at 7 knots and you're having to weave and go in all these places. I got to see so much of the country, so much that I have never seen before, and I never would have seen if I didn't have this opportunity to do something like this. So that was very, very cool. Saw a lot of huge boats, nice boats, cool shipyards. I loved walking in the shipyards, cool marinas, met some really, really cool people. I don't really want to call them friends, but yeah, sure, we certainly would be friends. And the locals were awesome. Everyone was awesome. And just this yachting community is pretty cool. There's the captain.
Did you see me?
Yes, we did see you. It's all right, Captain. I won't fire you.
Not today.
Not today. I'm actually flying home tomorrow, so you can't even fire me. But overall, my experience was absolutely amazing. A lot of hard work, because like I said, 15 days or 16 days with no days off. Stressful days. Some of the days were really stressful. Some of the days were nice. But being as there were so many systems down, there were just so many stressors that were added on top of it that didn't have to be there. And so I can only imagine what a delivery on this vessel would be like if everything was working. It would be a dream. It would be so much fun. Not that this wasn't fun, but it was very, very challenging. But that challenge taught me a lot of things. I learned so much valuable lessons and just things I learned about the systems on the boat, how to navigate, how to do all this stuff. Very, very cool, and I appreciate the captain for taking the time to teach me. Granted, this isn't my first delivery, so I had some knowledge base, but he just helped me expand on that. Very, very cool, and I got to do some steer the boat in some really sketchy parts. It was really, really cool to get to do that, because there was a lot on the line when this boat that doesn't steer well at all anyway, because it has an aftermarket skeg and other problems that cause it not to steer well. And if we screw up, it's going to be bad. Oh yeah, we ran aground two times? I don't know, kind of 2.5 times? No, 3.5 times? No, 2.5 times. Because one time we were just going down a channel and all of a sudden we lost both engines and we lost steering. And the boat just goes. I didn't damage anything. We were able to get off and stuff, but there's just things that happen that you have to learn how to react to. I learned a lot, and I hope to continue to do some stuff like this, and hopefully one day get my own captain's license, because that's kind of what I'm working up to, getting my sea time in, getting some experience, learning things. And if this would have been an easy delivery, I probably wouldn't have learned very much. But it being a hard delivery and a challenging vessel, I learned a lot. Sorry I didn't film more, but as you can tell, or hopefully you could tell, we were super busy the whole time, and the clips that I did get were a struggle. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Get out there and God bless, and I'll see you on the next adventure. And I got a really, really, really cool one coming up for you guys next. You're going to love it. It's like a 24-hour survival challenge that's hadn't really been done before. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. All right? See you guys. Love you.